Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Hadith class. Today, inshallah, we will continue the book of Sunnah from Sunan Abi Dawood. And we have few Ahadith. And we will start with a very long one. And we will start with the chain of narrators. Abu Dawud rahimahullah says in this hadith, حدثنا محمد بن كثير قال أنبأنا سفيان قال كتب رجل إلى عمر بن عبد العزيز يسأله عن القدر. A man wrote to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz asking him about Qadr. So we have now two people in this chain. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he is the well-known Umayyah Khalifa. He was the righteous man. According to most of the scholars, he is the fifth Khalifa after Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhum, the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Although Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah was not a companion, he is a successor. He was the Khalifa of the Muslims for 2 years. He died in the year 101 of Hijrah. And many of them considered him the Mujaddid, the one who renews Islam, because the Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith that Allah will send at the beginning of every century a man who will renew the religion. So he was considered the first man. And the second one was Shafi'i rahimahullah in the second 100, and so on. Anyways, regarding this hadith, a man was asking Umar ibn Abdul Aziz about Al-Qadr, the divine decree. And remember, at that time, there were many ideologies, and people were confused what to say about Qadr. This is the first chain. The second chain, وقال الربيع بن سليمان المؤذن. We have الربيع بن سليمان المؤذن قال أخبرنا أسد بن موسى قال أخبرنا حماد بن دليل قال سمعت سفيان الثوري عن النضر. So now we have الربيع, then we have Asad ibn Musa, then we have Hamad ibn Dulayl, then we have Sufyan al-Thawri from An-Nadr. These are 5 people. So this is chain number 2. The third chain, Hanad ibn Sari حدثنا عن قبيصة. قال أنبأنا أبو رجاء عن أبي الصلت وهذا لفظ ابن كثير ومعناهم. So now we have 3 different chains. And in hadith terminology, you need to see the different chains of narrators. Scholars do not mention them for no reason. There always has to be a reason for that. Now in this hadith, it seems that there is some different wordings. However, Abu Dawud, what did he say? And this is the wording of Ibn Kathir. This is the wording of Ibn Kathir. That means there is a slight difference. The meaning is the same. Once you have 2, 3, multiple narrations, you will have some slight change in words. Just like now, I'm talking to you. If you leave and you relate something from me, definitely there will be some difference. You cannot relate exactly the same thing. And the more you are, the more differences there will be. And this is by itself is an art in hadith terminology. Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he had a method. Usually if he mentions 2 narrations, the words will be for which narration? The first or the second? Why? It is the second. It is the second. Usually scholars give you these words are from first or second chain. And some of them they don't give you, they have the method, and you should know it. So it depends. Now in this, Abu Dawud rahimahullah told you, these are the words of Ibn Kathir. Now what's the chain? How can we have it clear? Again, this is not in the book. The book that we have, it doesn't have this. It's always direct to the narrator. But again, this is something you should know. And this is a simple draft. You have Abu Dawood, he's the narrator. Then he is narrating from 3 different people. And at the end, you have also the source. Now, who is the source here? Is it the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It is Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So it's not the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is it a companion? No. So what authority does it have? What do we call this? Do we call this a hadith? We call it athar. We call it athar. By itself, it doesn't have any authority. So what's the advantage of it then? There is advantage. Because those are the people that we have to follow. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His book, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and His sunnah, we have the best generations. Who are the best generations? He is one of them. Companions and the successors. So again, this is a simple draft. And here is what we have. That's what we have in the book. It starts with here. Sufyan wa Abu Salt, both of them said, a man wrote to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Now what's the authenticity of this narration? Based on what you saw. Based on what you saw, what's the authenticity of this narration? We have 3 different chains. This is weak. It is missing what?
From what I remember, what you just showed. You showed 3 chains.
No, there is no one missing. Everyone is there. So what's the level of authenticity here? Come on. We need to move on. Yeah, it is athar, but there is athar, there is weak, there is hasan, and there is sahih athar also.
I would think it's sahih because of the people mentioned.
Hasan, sahih. If we have a link of narrators and there is someone is missing, is it authentic or it's not? It's not authentic. If we have a link and there is no one is missing, but we don't know who is there. Why? There's no one is missing. Okay, in this example, who's the narrator? Yeah. Don't you see a man wrote to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz? Who's that man? Do we know him? So, who said Sahih or Hasan? Yes? Is it Sahih anymore? Why?
Does it affect it? Does that affect it?
Of course it does. Does it affect or not?
I don't think so. No. A man wrote.
A man wrote, exactly. Although we don't know this man, it is not in the narration. It's not in the chain. It is not in the chain. If it was in the chain, then yes, it affects it. Come on, we studied this. No, it was clear.
It's like saying a Bedouin came to the Rasul.
No, it's not like a Bedouin came to the Messenger ﷺ. Why? Because if it was from the companions, it doesn't matter if we don't know the name, as long as it is from the companion. But you're right, if you say that the companions relating and saying that a man came to the Messenger ﷺ, yes, it is similar, that they are relating from someone that they know, but They don't know who came to him. So here it's not in the chain itself. Okay. A man wrote to Umar ibn Abdul Aziz asking him about the divine decree. Again, as I told you, at that time, it was a time of fitna, where people, they don't know what to follow. He wrote to him, to begin with, أما بعد, I enjoin upon you to fear Allah. فإني أوصيك بتقوى الله. That's the bequest of the Messenger ﷺ. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran. That's why we start the khutbah with what? اتقوا الله. We recite the ayat. اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. اتقوا الله الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. Right? That's what he told him first. Second, to be moderate in obeying his command. What does it mean? The religion itself is a religion of moderation. It's not extreme. Once you excess the limit, you will fall in one of the two extremes. Either you will be extremist or you will be negligent. One of them. To follow the sunnah of his Prophet ﷺ, and to abandon the novelties which the innovators introduced. Bid'ah. You have to avoid bid'ah. So look at this instruction from this wise man, radiallahu anh, from Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. You follow Allah's commands, you follow His Prophet's sunnah, and you avoid bid'ah, the new things. And that was, remember, that was at what time? In the year approximately 100 of Hijrah. So less than 90 years from the death of the Messenger ﷺ. What do we say nowadays, after 1400 years? What do we say? If someone comes and says, you are exaggerating, there are no bid'ah at all. Be realistic. What did he say again? Abandon the novelties which the innovators introduced after his sunnah, after the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ has been established. And they were saved from its trouble. Who was saved from its trouble? The companions, the righteous generation. And that's the point behind mentioning this athar. Although, as I said, it is not from the Prophet ﷺ, but it is very, very important. It shows you the scholars at that time, the wise people, what did they instruct their followers, the one who sought their advice. Why we are mentioning this? Because it is more befitting for our time also to follow this instruction. Nowadays you hear from this something, and you hear from another one another thing, and you hear from here, you hear from there. So what should you do? You're confused. Go back to the mainstream, go back to the pure source. So stick to the sunnah. That's what he's telling him. Now the question is about sunnah or about qadar? It is about qadar, but he's telling him, you want to know about qadar? Stick to the sunnah. You'll know everything. Qadar, other things. For it is for you, if Allah chooses, a protection. The sunnah is the protection. That's the shield. Then you should know that any innovation which the people introduced was refused long before it. It is an innovation. How then it is refused? It is refused. That's what he's telling him. As long as it is innovation, that means there is no good in it. On the basis of some authority, or there was some lesson in it, for the sunnah was introduced by the people who were conscious of the error, slip, foolishness, and extremism, in case it was opposed. So any novelty, any bid'ah, any innovation is rejected. How? By ignoring it, if it did not happen at their time, because if it was good, they should have done it. Or by opposing it, if it happened and they fought it. At either way, what should you do? You follow the sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ. Now, remember that he combined two things. Following the sunnah through what? Looking for the generation of the companions. What did they do? That's why very important when we say we are the people of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. But that's what everyone says. That's when everyone claims that I follow the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ. Okay, let me ask you this. If you say you follow the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah, was this the way of the companions? Did that what they say? Or it is something new? If it's something new, you cannot claim that you're following the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. Why? Because those companions, as Umar ibn Aziz rahimahullah is telling this man, they were more conscious of error, slip, foolishness, and extremism. They know more than you. Are you claiming that you are better than the companions of the Messenger of Allah? Why you are doing it and they did not do it? Look at the great statement. So accept for yourself what the people in the past has accepted for themselves. Why you want to go beyond what the companions went? Why? Are you better than them? Whatever they did, we do. What was good enough for them, it should be good enough for us. Unless you say you are better than them, or you know more than they knew. So accept for yourself what they accepted for themselves. For they had complete knowledge. Who has more knowledge, you or them? Of whatever they were informed. And by their penetrating insight, they forbade these things, these innovations. They had more strength to disclose the matters. Is that true? Is that true? Who was with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The companions. Who was tortured in Mecca? Who had to migrate, to leave everything? Who had to fight with his own hands, with his swords? Who witnessed the revelation? You or them? How come after all this you say, I may have something they did not have? This is very important. And they were far better than us by virtue of their merits. Do you have a testimony from the Messenger ﷺ that you are in paradise? Do you have a testimony from the Prophet ﷺ that Allah loves you, as many of the companions have? So, what are you saying? That's why it's very important to stick to their method. If right guidance is what you are following, then you outstrip them to it. Now, either you say you are on the correct path, and they did not do it, that means they were misguided, because you found something they did not find. And if you say whatever the novelty occurred after them was introduced by those who follow the way other than theirs, and dislike them, it is they who actually outstripped. So again, either you say you are on the guidance and they were misguided, or they already judged that you are misguided because you are doing something they already declared or deemed to be bid'ah. If right guidance is what you are following, then you outstrip them to it. And if you say whatever the novelty occurred after them was introduced by those who follow the way other than theirs and dislike them, it is they who actually outstripped and talked about it sufficiently and gave a satisfactory explanation for it. You cannot say that this is the correct way and it is the way of the companions, yet they did not do it. So either you are better than them, you are guided and they are misguided, or you have to declare that you are following another way other than the way of the companions. And if that's the case, the companions already deemed you as misguided. So you have to choose either one. Below them, there is no place for exhaustiveness. Whatever you try to do, you will not be more knowledgeable than them. And above them, there is no place for elaborating things. Who has the knowledge of Arabic? Who has the knowledge of the Quran? Who has the virtue of accompanying the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Some people shortened the matter more than they had done. And thus they turned away from them. And some people raised the matter more than they had done. And thus they exaggerated. Look at the beautiful quotation of Umar ibn al-Aziz rahimahullah. Look how he declared the matter very clearly. Don't shorten what they explained, and do not try to expand what they already shortened. Why? They have more knowledge, they are more virtuous, they are more conscious than you. So stick to their method. Now what if someone came and said, well, there is a new thing that the companions did not judge. We're talking about principles of religion. We're not talking about issues of fiqh. All scholars agreed that there are issues that are coming. We need to do qiyas. We need to derive the rulings. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about matters of aqeedah. We're talking about matters of sunnah in the broader term. Guidance and following the Messenger ﷺ. That's what we're talking about. In this matter, do not add one simple thing to it. So he says, you have written to me asking about confessions of divine decree. You have indeed approached a person who is well informed of it. Isn't that arrogance? When you say that I know of it very well, showing off. Shouldn't he ignore this statement? Someone asked you, you come and say, yeah, I'm glad you asked me. I know the answer for this. What do you think? This is similar to Yusuf alayhi salam when he told the king, appoint me as the treasurer. But he gave the reason. Inni hafidhun alim. I am a trustworthy. I am knowledgeable. I have the ability to safeguard and to protect the wealth and to distribute it justly. That's the same thing. When someone asks you and you want to assure him that you know the answer, there is nothing wrong with it. You are not showing off. You are telling him what you know very well of yourself. And that's permissible. That is permissible. So he told him, with the will of Allah, I will explain to you the answer for what you've asked for. I know that whatever novelty people have brought in and whatever innovation people have introduced are not more manifested and more established than confession of divine decree. Now remember, the question is about divine decree. What should we do? So he's telling him, all that was introduction. Stick to the sunnah. The ignorant people in pre-Islamic times have mentioned it. They talked about it in their speeches and in their poetry. They talked about what? The issue of divine decree. Are we going to be resurrected? Are we obliged to do this, to sin, to obey? They would console themselves for what they lost. And Islam then strengthened it. When something happens and they accept it, they try to console each other. That's correct. That's from Qadr. And Islam came and approved of it. The Apostle of Allah ﷺ did not mention it in one or two traditions, but the Muslims heard it from him and talked of it from him. So it was mentioned several times. Hadith Jibreel, you have to believe in the Qadr. What Qadr? The good and the bad. What is good and what is bad. And they talked of it during his lifetime and after his death. There were many issues. The man who came to the Messenger ﷺ and asked him, should I fetter the camel or leave it untied? Prophet ﷺ told him, tie it and depend on Allah, rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, when they wanted to stay away from the town, the village who had plague, he said, we are running away from the qadr of Allah to the qadr of Allah. So it was already discussed. That means whatever addition is coming to it is what? Innovation. No need for it. Just like if you have fresh juice, 100%. and you say, no, that's concentrated. It is already 100% juice, and you say, I want to put more water to increase it. What will happen? You contaminate that fresh juice. They did so out of belief and submission to their Lord, and thinking themselves weak. That's what they did. They explained, they talked about it, out of their knowledge, out of their submission. So they knew what they are talking about, and they admitted after all this that they are weak, they are humans. So they are more conscious than we are. There is nothing which is not surrounded by his knowledge. Now, he is telling the man, the questioner, there is nothing surrounded by his knowledge. Which knowledge? Allah's knowledge, and not counted by his register. Allah's register, مَا فَرَّطْنَا فِي الْكِتَابِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, and not destined by his decree. This is very beautiful, 3 sentences. And that briefs the entire qadr, the entire issue of qadr. Because again, people were on 2 extremes. One extreme says that we have no choice, we are forced. If I come and stab you, it's not me actually, it is Allah. I could not help it. And other people on the other extreme said that Allah does not know what's going to happen. If we say that, that means Allah is the one who wanted evil. How come Allah knows that evil will happen and He does not stop it? So people were on 2 extremes. But that's the correct belief, that nothing is not surrounded by His knowledge and not counted by His register. Everything is written and not destined by His decree. But the problem where the people of innovations failed to understand is that whatever was decreed is not because Allah wanted it. Allah knew of it. Remember the levels of qadr. And that's why it was written, not because Allah wanted it to happen. Allah willed it, otherwise it would not have happened. But that does not mean Allah wanted it to happen. Despite that, it has been strongly mentioned in His book. There are many ayat in the Quran, and we discussed that in the issue of the qadr. From it they have derived it, and from it they have learnt it. And that's the difference, the major difference between the people of Al-Sunnah wal-Jama'ah and the people of innovations. Any matter of aqeedah, we mention it and we say this is the evidence. Allah says this, the Prophet ﷺ said that. Read any book of innovations and you find 30, 50 pages of what? Statements, logic. Where's the evidence? Well, logically, it doesn't make sense, whatever. We have evidences. That's the difference. When we believe in something, we have evidence for it, from the book of Allah or the sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ. If you say, why did Allah reveal that verse so and so, and why did He say so and so? Because in some ayat, when we say, or a hadith, what do we answer about them? They also read in it what you read, and they knew its interpretation of which you are ignorant. And this is another beautiful sentence. Don't ask why Allah said this. You're not the first one who read this ayah. The companions also read this ayah, and they did not ask why you are coming and asking. Oh, I just want to know. Well, again, following the guidance of the companions is the success. Do not try to go beyond them. That's why it is very beautiful athar. This narration is of great importance. Although it is not from the Messenger ﷺ or from the companions, but it is according to their method. And that's not the only narration. That's Umar ibn Aziz rahimahullah is not the only one. All the scholars of Al-Sunnah Jama'ah, that's what they will tell you. Follow the mainstream, the pure path, the source of the religion, through following the companions of the Messenger ﷺ. So again, to the end of this narration, that's the athar of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah. And we learn from it many, many lessons. But the main objective of this narration, and that's why it was mentioned underneath the chapter of adherence to Sunnah, that of the Sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ is to follow the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. You follow their guidance. Now, we're moving to another hadith with a different chapter. the children of the polytheists. Children of the polytheists. And what this has to do with adherence to Sunnah. We will see. Enough chains of narrators. Huh? Aisha radiallahu anha said, I said, Apostle of Allah, what happens to the offspring of the believers? What will happen to them? She asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He replied, they are joined to their parents. What does that mean? They are joined to their parents. Where are the believers? In paradise. They are believers. And their offspring? In paradise. That's what it means. Aisha asked, Apostle of Allah, although they have done nothing, how come they enter paradise? They did not do anything. They are rewarded for what? On behalf of their parents? The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah knows best what they were doing. Allahu a'lam bima kanu amilin. What does it mean? That's part of the belief of the qadar. And again, that's why also it was mentioned underneath the chapter, adherence to the sunnah. Because of the sunnah is to believe in the qadar. Belief in qadar is to believe that Allah knows what happened, and what is happening, and what will happen. And that's not it. There is something else. And what did not happen? If it happened, how it will happen. That's a very important part also of the divine decree, that you should believe. Allah knows everything. Everything. What happened, what is happening, what will happen, and what did not happen. If it happened, how it will happen. Allah knows all that. So, Allah knows if those were to live, what they will do. Allah knows that as well. Then she asked, what happens to the offspring of the polytheists, Apostle of Allah? He replied, they are joined to their parents. Where are the polytheists? The polytheists, where are they? In paradise? In hellfire. What about their children? Where are their children? Hello? What did the Prophet ﷺ say? In hellfire. Although they have done nothing, is that justice? Again, the Prophet ﷺ gave the same answer. Allah knows best what they were doing. If they were to live, Allah knows what they are going to do. What do you think? Based on this hadith, where are the children of the polytheists? Now, remember, Imam Abu Dawud was very accurate. He mentioned the offspring of what? The polytheists in the topic of the chapter. He did not mention the offspring of the believers, because scholars agreed on that they will be joined with their parents. But what about the children of the polytheists? According to this hadith, what do we know? Or what do we say? Where are they? In hellfire. Do you agree with this? According to this hadith. Only this. Why? Is there anything else? No what? No hellfire. So, the Prophet ﷺ is telling you they are joined to their parents, and you say it doesn't say that? Where are their parents? Polytheists. Remember, we're talking about polytheists. Is there another place?
What happened to them? They're joined to their parents. Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Again, who are they? Who are their parents? Polytheists. Do you believe that the polytheists will enter paradise? Okay. So what do you think? Based on this hadith, it says that they are in hellfire, but is that the correct ruling? No?
According to this hadith, yes. 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 According to this hadith
The Prophet ﷺ is saying they are with their parents, and you say no?
Isn't there something that says that they will be the youths of who will be served in paradise?
Well, we have 8 opinions. 8 opinions. Yeah, and you have to know all of them. We have 8 opinions. The first opinion, and based on what? Why do we have that much opinions? Because of the conflicting ahadith. Because of the conflicting ahadith. This is one of them. Based on this hadith alone, where are the offspring of the polytheists? In hellfire. That's one opinion. Another opinion, because of the hadith, it is clear. Another opinion says, we should not discuss this matter. Because of the conflict. We don't know. Another opinion says, it is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah may forgive them or may punish them. Another opinion says, as you just said, they will be the servants. They're servants of who? Of the believers in paradise. Another opinion says they are in between, which is very weak opinion. Because there are some evidences that they are in paradise, and there is this hadith says they are in hellfire. So they are not here nor there. Where are they? In between. But in the hereafter there is no in between. Either in paradise or in hellfire. Another opinion says, we already said they are in paradise, right? Another opinion says they are in paradise. Another opinion says, it doesn't say they are in hellfire, but it says they are with their parents. Whatever their parents are, they are with them. So if his parent is a believer, he will be a believer in paradise. If his parent is a disbeliever, he is in hellfire. So technically it's just like the first opinion. The last opinion says they will be tested on the day of judgment. They will be tested. How many opinions so far? 8 opinions. Which one do you think is the strongest one?
They are the servants of the believers.
What?
They are the servants of the believers.
What's the evidence? In Surah what? Mm-hmm. What do you think is the strongest opinion? It's up to Allah. Everything is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, I like that one. Didn't say
The last one is the strongest one.
they'll be tested.
Yeah. Because that's justice. That is justice. And that's like the medium between the two opinions, in hellfire or in paradise. Each opinion has an evidence, but some of evidences are weak, some of them are strong. So that's the topic of the offspring of the polytheists. The next hadith. Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anh reported the Apostle of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as saying, the devil flows in a man like his blood. إن الشيطان يجري من ابن آدم مجرى الدم في العروق. The devil flows in a man like his blood. There is a reason and there is a story for this hadith. Do you know it? Mhm. Yes, when the Prophet ﷺ was doing i'tikaf and his wife. Who was his wife? Safiya radiallahu anha. She came and talked to him, and the Prophet ﷺ talked to her, and then he was standing with her. So two of the companions passed by. When they saw the Messenger ﷺ with the woman, they ran, they quickly marched. So the Prophet ﷺ called on them, and he said, "She is my wife." So they said, "O Messenger of Allah, how come we accuse you, or you think that we may think something bad?" So he told them that the devil runs in the veins of Adam just like blood, which means you don't sit alone with a woman and you say that everything is okay, or you don't do something and you expect from people to think good thing. You have to always take precautions. So based on this hadith, what does it mean that the devil flows in a man like his blood? When you bleed, devil is coming out. What does it mean?
The devil, Shaitan.
Yeah. How much devil of your weight? If you are 60 pounds, that means, what does it mean?
That his influence
His influence
is there, is always present.
is always present. So you learn from this that there is a strong influence for the devil, which means you have to struggle a lot to stay away from the devil. That's one meaning, clear meaning. Other scholars said Allah gives the devil the ability to run literally in your veins and blood. And that's why you may commit the evil actions. But the first one is stronger. But there is still possibility. So these are the two meanings of this hadith, which tells you that it is very, very difficult war between yourself and the shaitan. You have the shaitan, you have the temptations, you have your own whims and desires from your own self. So you have to fight all these things. So these are the ahadith of today. Is there any question about them? Any questions from online? Yes.
The offspring, does that mean are they young children or just anyone who came from a polytheist?
No, the offspring of the polytheists before reaching the age of puberty.
What is the term that was used in the actual Arabic term? What is the term that's used for that?
Awlad.
Awlad?
Yeah.
That means young.
Young, yeah. Because if they reach the age of puberty, it doesn't matter who's their parents, be it Muslim, be it disbeliever, they will be held accountable separately. But if they are underneath that age, then their parents are responsible. And if they are 10 years old, 11 years old, 5 years old, they are still not held accountable for their own deeds. So how come they will be in hellfire? Right after that hadith, actually, the Prophet ﷺ, or that's what Abu Dawud rahimahullah mentioned, the hadith of the Messenger ﷺ, that every newborn, every baby is born according to Islam, on the innate nature, which is Islam. Yet his parents cause him to become a Jew, Christian, or Magus. So that means by default you should be a Muslim. And because of this hadith, some people said about the children of the polytheists, where are they? In paradise, because they are considered Muslims. And that's why, again, we have conflict. Okay, that concludes our session. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى صحبه أجمعين.